Good morning, everybody. Hey, JP, welcome back to another episode of Midlife Muscle and Strength Podcast, where we try to help you be better, not broken. Let's get rocking and rolling here, sir. You got a good topic you brought up, so let's rock it.
Let's do it. We're going to talk today about how to prevent injuries, or what you should focus on, how not to get injured while training. And that could be lifting, cardio, whatever it might be. So some injury topics that we've definitely made through our careers.
I was just going to say, these are not, we are not immune to this stuff.
Yes.
I'm sure we've done it. All right, kick it off, sir. Let's do it.
First one we have: stretching before lifting isn't saving you. So this is just like a proper warm-up. And a lot of times, like, we kind of create our own warm-ups when we work out on our own, but like there's some prep work to do. And for us, like, limited on time, like we talk about like hopping right into it, but like hopping right into it is still a warm-up for us. Like the first round or first 10 minutes. I kind of, thought about like band work is a great way to warm up with, like getting the bands going, hopping into weight right away, breaking a sweat, like some light cardio, or even some like mobility work, would be kind of things to focus on. How do you picture your warm up, or what do you think for your clients warm up? Like, is there something you kind of focus on, or
that's first of all, it's a great one, because I think I actually have images of my father, who I love dearly, but him like static stretching all the time before he would go do his workouts, and thinking, and now looking back, being like, oh man, there was a better way, Dad. Like he'd be on the floor, like doing his hamstring stretch for like 20 minutes to go out and do a run, when there could have been so much of a better approach. So what I tell clients is two things. Experienced clients that I have, they know what they're doing. So I usually tell them to do the warm up that works for them. So if I have like a CrossFit athlete I work with that's been training for years, they know what works for them. So they oftentimes have their own way of doing things that gets them ready to go. But people who are inexperienced, novice, not used to doing their thing in the gym, I kind of give them two different pathways. One is your first couple sets are very, very light. So if you're short on time, you don't want to do like a proper warm up, then your first sets are, super, super light of each exercise. And that sort of just gets your body prepared for what's coming when you're going to load it up a little bit more. And I'd say like the first two sets are like pretty light. And for example, like if you're going to do dumbbell shoulder press, you do a set with 10-pound dumbbells, or maybe 5-pound dumbbells, something super light. Then the next set is 10 or 15 pounds more, maybe. And then you start getting into like some working sets after that. So that's the first approach. Then the second approach I like is doing some kind of dynamic warm up that preps the body for the movement that's coming. So if we're doing squats that day, you're going to do goblet squats in your warm up for 8 to 10 reps. If we're doing deadlifts, you're going to do some RDLs in the warm up. So a sort of a version of the movements that's coming later, or things that are going to prepare the body for the movement patterns that are coming, so that your joints, ligaments, tendons, muscles, CNS, and everything is going before you actually start throwing the weight on there.
Yeah, I love those. I don't have much to add to those. That's kind of how I would be doing it.
What are your thoughts on, this is like kind of a higher level one, but I actually like for myself a lot, I'll throw in some either static holds, like isometric holds, or some like plyometric stuff.
Yes.
If I really want to like get the body really going, and this is something that's a little bit higher level for people who might be looking to hit like a really heavy lift that day or something. Do you like using those in your warm-ups, or you think it's not quite enough?
No, I love them. I love like squat holds, like wall squat holds, just to prime the legs, or hip bridges. Those are two really basic ones. And then plyometric wise, like jumping rope is great. Even some like, box jumps, step downs, not to maximal height, but like just like some plyometrics where you're kind of rebounding, or, some stability work or holds. I love those. Yeah. You can't hide from them,
Yeah.
Done correctly, very efficient. And I think it just primes your system for like a bigger lift that you're going to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Those are great. Next one we have is lifting heavy with bad form isn't hardcore. So
Are you sure it's
I
not
don't know.
hardcore?
I think people overlook technique and they kind of focus just on overloading the weight. I think technique, as coaches, I'm always like, send me pictures of your squat. Like writing a squat on a piece of paper and watching a squat is two different. Like can be two different things. Like my versions of what I think a squat is or what the effective range of motion is compared to what someone else is looking at might be totally different from a coach client perspective. But you see it in the gym all the time, people loading up weight and just lifting as heavy as they can without the technique. And you're kind of missing out on the muscle groups that you should be focusing on. And that's the big thing is like, what are you stimulating? If you're doing a deadlift with a rounded back, you might not be hitting your hamstrings as effectively as like a flat back. But it depends on what your dosage is or what you're looking for. But even in squats, like a range of motion is a big one. And it could be a mobility issue, it could be a strength issue. But people just want to move the weight and not necessarily like focus on the technique of the movement.
Yeah, that's a really big one, and I think people connect how much they're lifting with how much progress they're going to make, so they don't care if the form is perfect. Like, oh, if my technique breaks down a little bit, it's all right because I'm moving a really heavy load, so I'm going to get the progress I'm looking for, or the stimulus I'm looking for. But if you're not moving the weight correctly, like you said, you're just setting yourself up for issues, down the road. Maybe you'll get away with it for a little while, but eventually it's going to catch up with you, and that's going to be where you're going to run into problems. I mean, we've all been there, right? You go to the Globo gym. I mean, I haven't gone to one of those in years, and you see the guy or the teenage kid who's deadlifting, and you're just like, you're cringing because you're like, oh my gosh, you're waiting for his back to explode into a pile of confetti because you see them moving. And they have the best intentions. They're working hard. They're trying to do their best, but all they're thinking about is the load and not really how they're moving. So yeah, I totally agree. That's a tough one, that especially new athletes that you work with as a coach, asking them to send you videos all the time is really important, I think, of how they're moving. And if you're working with a client in person, doing like a movement screening is also really important. But yeah, seeing how somebody moves and giving them some help with that can definitely keep injuries at bay for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think like technique, I've always, even in my own training, emphasized my technique. If my technique wasn't there, I cut the weight pretty quick. It was only on exercise, and I think that helped me over a long period of time because if you have really good technique, you can load, as long as you want. That's why I like my squat kept going up because I had good technique and I always focused on that. But the other thing too is like, I think is a finer point that a coach can help you with. But like, if I'm squatting, I'm not feeling in the right muscle groups. I could have great form and just like neurologically that day, I'm not like, maybe I need a better warm up or, I need to drop down. Like if I'm not feeling it in the right muscle groups, I'll stop too. Like if I'm just feeling it like all quads, my glutes aren't firing, then like I could have perfect technique visually, but if I'm not feeling it from a neurological standpoint, then I kind of go back, drop the weight, and just figure out why isn't that firing first. I think that's important. That's kind of like higher level, but I think a coach can help you with that as well. Focusing on the right, like it's not just the technique; it's what muscles are firing to do that.
Yeah, I actually run into that a lot with athletes on deadlifts.
Hmm.
There's a lot of times it's I don't feel it here. I don't feel it in my glutes. Or I'm not feeling it in my hamstrings, or I'm not feeling it in X, Y, Z. So then we go back and drop the weight, and then do a bunch of different technique drills, or put horizontal band tension on the bar, or have them do some pauses or holds and things like that, or tempos. There's all kinds of different ways you can address that stuff, but I think that's also a great point you just brought up, is that the form might look great, but inside of your body, you're like, wow, my hamstrings aren't doing anything on this deadlift. So what's going on here? I just feel it all like in the square lower part of my back and my lumbar spine. So what's going on here? So that's a great point as well. Technique only goes so far. How much are you, having that mind muscle connection and firing in all the places you're supposed to?
Yeah. Next one we have is if you're still chasing PRs each week, you're the problem. And I've been that's happened to me in my training. I've been a victim of that. Like every week you're just trying to max out every snatch, clean, jerk, like all your big lifts. You're just trying to max out, which I think there's like a point in time for that. But I did it for years, and I think like eventually, like luckily I didn't get injured, but I definitely didn't see as much progress as I would have properly training. But yeah, I just think like if you're always trying to chase the number, you are the reason you're going to get hurt.
So you're telling me if you max out every week, you don't get stronger and
Yeah, it's
better
weird.
forever?
I tried it. Didn't work.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things about this. I could talk about this for an hour, but I think like having patience, number one, understanding how the body works and how it's not just a constant, steady climb. Like if it was that case where you just keep maxing out and you constantly get better, then the world record would be like 1 million pound squat, 1 million pound deadlift because people would just keep going up. But it doesn't work like that. You have to understand that there's going to be ups and downs. You got to listen to your body. You can't chase PRs every week. A lot of it's, I'd say like 80% of your training is just like building a base of strength, a base of just general physical preparedness. And then a small sliver of it would be pushing the load where you might hit a PR. And at our age, right, getting on 40 almost, the PRs are few and far between if ever coming again, unless we really, really focus on it. So I think going into the gym thinking about PRs is just a bad approach to start off with. And then pushing that in your training is just a recipe for disaster. You're going to end up, actually probably going backwards, if anything, if that's what you end up, if you try to do.
Yeah, I think you kind of go bring it back to like bodybuilding, maybe like Arnold Schwarzenegger, his like those days. I think like our parents kind of grew up with that, and I think a lot of the mentality comes from that. Is you see, I think visually you watch, a bodybuilder work out and you think they're maxing out, but in reality they're not. Like that's not the maximal weight they're lifting. They might be doing a lot more reps, but it kind of looks maximal. So then people just always are trying to chase like max effort, and it's like that's not how you progress or get better.
Nope.
Like you said, I think that like living that 80%. If I did that, I think I could probably still be doing what I wanted to be doing. I don't have any limitations, but I would have been a lot more successful in that time, in that frame.
Mm-hmm.
So next one kind of runs into that a little bit. No pain, no gain. Fast tracks to surgery.
Fast.
No pain, no gain.
Yes. Keeping orthopedic surgeons in business since forever.
Yeah, I think knowing, and this is really important. I think like having a coach helps you with this a lot. But like not every pain deserves, you should push through, and not every pain you should stop working out either. So it's kind of like just identifying like what's a tightness. Okay, this is a tightness. Okay, if I keep moving and I do 10 more reps, does it go away, or does it get worse? Or like, did that sharp pain, should I stop working out if I felt a sharp pain in my back? Or, if I do some good mornings, does it feel better? Or like, within the training or the next day after training. I think like I just identifying like how your body feels. And I think you should listen to your body. Like maybe you should stop, that day or that week and take the rest of the week off. Or maybe you should push through it a little bit, or not push through it, but like identify what that pain is. Is that a muscle pain? Is that a ligament? Is that a tendon? Kind of knowing what pain is. I think I deal with that with a lot of beginning people who haven't worked out in a long time, or maybe have never worked out before, that knowing what the pain is and how to identify with it. And like, what is this? Is this, my back's broken, or, I need surgery, or is it like, hey, it's just muscles we haven't worked out before. Let's kind of like keep moving through it.
Yeah. This is something I think you and I probably take for granted, right? Is like we're very in tune with our body, so we know the difference between a good leg pump and a hamstring pull.
Yeah.
But someone else, they honestly, and it's not a knock on people. It's just, if you don't have that experience, if you've never felt what it feels like to like really push your muscles to where they're burning, right? And you're getting that hypertrophy feeling like in the moment where you're getting the pump, that could feel like an injury to somebody and they don't know the difference. So it's just a matter of experience and a matter of understanding your body and being in tune with your body. And actually, funny enough, this week we were swimming a lot in the pool because it's been super hot. And my 6-year-old is practicing swimming like without her bubble, so she's getting her swim on. And yesterday she was swimming, and she goes, "My legs hurt." And I was like, "Oh, what happened? Did you hit him on the stairs?" She goes, "No, they're just hurting." And I go, "All right, is it because you're tired?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm just swimming so much." And I'm like, "Oh, she's getting like her legs are fatigued, but she doesn't
Yeah.
know like she's never felt that kind of fatigue on her legs." So she's like, "They're hurting," because she was having like it was building up and burning in her legs from just churning so much. So that type of thing is again, I think we take for granted because we're so used to it on a weekly, daily basis of understanding what the difference between those types of pains are. But if you're not experienced, you don't know.
Yeah, I've had clients where you train and as a coach you're not trying to make them sore, but they might be really sore the next day, and they're like, "I think I hurt myself," and it's like, "I think you're just sore. Like go for a walk, like you'll be okay." Like but yeah, I think it just takes training and time, and I think that's like nice to talk to someone like, "Hey, I'm feeling this. What do you think it is?" Or you know should I and I think as a coach trainer, like you're kind of hey, let's do a few movements. Does it get better? Does it get worse? Like you're kind of, experimenting a little bit too. But yeah, I think it's just part of training. You kind of have to identify, you know,
um, no, one thing I want to add to this really quick is the no pain, no gain thing. I think there's another side to this coin where someone, even if they're experienced or inexperienced, I've worked with a lot of athletes who think a workout's not worth it if they're not crumbled in wrecked at the end of it. And we've talked about this ad nauseum on this podcast, but that's also not a good approach if you're trying to stay healthy and avoid injury, because someone will come to me and say, "I feel like it wasn't enough." And in my head, I'm like, "Oh, that's perfect." Like that, they went in, got a workout in, and they walked away without being, you know, debilitated. So the no pain, no gain thing goes both ways. Like understanding what pain is and where it's coming from, and also you don't have to put yourself under duress every workout where you feel totally wrecked.
yeah, absolutely. Next one we have neglecting your glutes and upper back is why your knees and shoulders hate you. So just like balanced training, I think like focusing on like we're a big fan of like posterior chain training. I think a lot of people train mirror muscles, which are like in the front of you, so like biceps, chest,
Those are the only ones
quads.
that matter. You know
Yeah,
that.
like that's what people see. And then, but like everything in the back is like hamstrings help your knees feel better, and help support your glutes and lower back, and then upper back is why like your posture and you're not hunching over as you get older, and your shoulders are healthier, and you see guys at the gym similarly like at a global gym you see like really rounded shoulders just because like they focus on bench a lot and they're not really doing much like pulling or even they might be doing some lat pull downs, but I think horizontal pulling where you're pulling your shoulders back and you're kind of seated rows, anything like that, I think that's like an afterthought. It's not really the first focus. I prioritize that stuff for my clients before bench press, just to
Hmm.
set their shoulders up, and I think it's a better warm up than just like starting off with like push ups and bench, and then even hamstring wise, like big focus on like those are your big movers, like for squats or deadlifts. So yeah, I think like those are the people neglect those and they're like, oh, why am I hurting so bad, or they just don't see the connection between the two.
Yeah, that doing tons of scap work saved my shoulders during my CrossFit career. I kind of found it through CrossFit because I had wonky shoulders doing all the snatching and overhead stuff that we do. And then when I found like doing banded scap pull aparts, face pulls, a lot of that upper back stuff just made my shoulders totally feel way better and more resilient to all that stuff. And then, like you said, with the posterior chain work, how many times have you had clients say their knees hurt, and they might be a runner or whatever the case is, and then you have them do just a pretty minimal dose of posterior chain stuff, and magically the knee things disappear,
Mm-hmm.
and the low back stuff disappears. Because they just had weak glutes or weak hamstrings, so all the stress is getting put on places um, that it doesn't need to be, and the glutes and hamstrings take the load off, and they're feeling way better before you know it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you see it all like I don't know. I don't even. I used to wait until they said they had knee pain, but I just know that I'm like, you probably do, or shoulders probably hurt. So like, might as well just start with this protocol. You know?
Um, yeah, like, but I think part of the problem is people don't know how to train those things. Like I think they assume that just doing squats, they'll hit that stuff, but a proper hinge like an RDL, I just don't think, especially like inexperienced lifters, inexperienced athletes, really know how to hit RDLs or something on a GHD or glute bridges or hip thrusts appropriately to really build that stuff up, and it comes back to bite them.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Next one we have is skipping rest days because you're addicted to the grind. Will end up you're going to be addicted to burning out.
All right, Goggins, let's go, Goggins.
Yeah, I think like I was addicted to the grind, and I definitely got burnt out. You know, like every day I was just like, more working out the better, and I just like overuse everything. I was just like dead by like I couldn't even move by like Friday or Saturday, and like I thought that was was propelling me. But each week I was actually taking like like a pretty substantial step back compared to everyone else I was training with. Um, and I just prided myself on it. I'm like, oh, if I keep grinding, like that's what's going to make me better. That's going to separate me from everyone else. Like I know, like Mickey's not doing this workout, so then just keep pushing that way. But it ended up being burnt out and being injured, and I think I got more injuries from that aspect. Not letting my muscles rest, because a big part of rest, and you've talked about it and we talked about it, is like that's when your muscles are growing. his rest days. It's not when you're breaking them down, trying to deadlift a small house. It's the time after when you're resting. So I think it's
Yeah, it's the like it's there's no moderation. I feel like in society, it's like there's all in or nothing, and like there's such a prevalent um, thing out there, especially with social media, of like the grind set of training every single day, training hard every day, no rest days. And then people are just impatient. Like they don't want to, take their time and get where they want to be. Um, New clients, new athletes I work with, they want 7 workouts a week instead of 2 or 3, which is really all they need.
Yeah.
So it's just like, less is more when it comes to that. And like you said, you'll make faster and better progress that way. I'm going to shout out one of my athletes I'm working with right now, Sarah Sullivan. And she's a master's CrossFit athlete, and and she's high level. She's won some big competitions, and definitely done some things in CrossFit. And she only does like 3, maybe 4 days a week training with me. And the other days she has work, she walks and, takes off. So she is a high level CrossFit athlete and only works out 3 or 4 days a week. In those 3 or 4 days a week, we get our money's worth, but she has 3 days where she doesn't train hard. And she just sort of like works and gets her steps in. That's it. So people coming to ask for 6 days a week because they think they're going to get better, it's just not needed.
Yeah, I have a lot of clients 2 days a week, and they're consistent and they do it for a long period of time, and like they see great results. And it's crazy. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I should train less. Like
Yeah.
even for me, it's like, well, if 2 days a week is working for them, like and you hear this like also this grind set for like work, like, oh, you got to hustle and grind, and like you see some of the most successful people like at one point in their lives they probably did that, but like a lot of it's just sustainability now. The one thing you don't hear about grind set is nutrition. You hear about like cheat days and take it easy, and it's like that's the stuff. The nutrition stuff is when you should be grinding.
Know what I noticed about the grind set community is, and they're all caffeine addicts. Like, yes. But they like joke about it. But they all post pictures of energy drinks constantly. They all post pictures of how many coffees, nitros, espressos they're having a day. And yes, there's been studies done that a little bit of coffee each day is okay. A little bit of caffeine is okay each day. But the amount that they're dosing, it's just not good, right? And imagine the crash you would have if you cut that off for a couple of days. Like your body would absolutely hate you with how much caffeine they dose daily if you cut that off for a couple of days. It's just not good. It's not a good strategy.
Yeah, I think when I came off of like coffee, like caffeine, I was like, wow, I'm really tired. Like it tells you like actually like rather than me being like, oh, I'll just drink coffee until I feel better, or like, I know a bunch of people at the gym used to like, just pop so much Advil. Like and it's like I never did that, but it's like if you're doing that, like isn't you should like listen, why are you doing that? Like it's just like masking how you actually feel,
Yeah.
If you're tired, rest.
Yeah. And
you know.
and like the other grind set thing, the last thing I'll say is like if you have that feeling where I got to do something every day, I feel like there's strategies around that where you can do something, but it doesn't have to be going into the gym and hammering it, right? Like get steps in, go for hikes, go for bike rides, like be active outside of the gym. That's fine to do. We're not saying work out 3 days a week and then sit on the couch the other four. Be active, but you don't have to hit the gym like you're training for the Olympics 7 days a week. Be active outside the gym, and then when you're in the gym, those 3 or 4 days, work hard. Have a good balance.
Yeah. Um, I have using a spotter doesn't make you sorry, not using a spotter doesn't make you tough.
Man, sometimes I think about this when I'm alone in my gym. I don't know about
Yeah.
you.
Like I think sometimes like safety equipment is important depending on what lifter you're using.
Hmm.
And I would encourage it. Like having a spotter or
Crash
using a
bars.
machine
Yeah.
is sometimes better. Yeah, sometimes better than, just, I'm tough. I'm not going to put the safety bars up to do squats. It's like if you are maxing or you're depending on what you're doing for exercise, like you want some help, some safety around for your training. So yeah, I think you can easily get hurt by thinking like, oh, I'm going to look like a wuss to do this, or it's not as tough. It's like I think that's your ego getting in the way.
Yeah. I don't know how. I mean, we've all probably seen those videos online of people getting hurt trying to bail out from a lift and they don't have a spotter. So it's a super easy one too. Just go up and ask somebody. I have Shannon spot me once in a while. I don't max out very rarely, but once in a while on the bench press, I might say to Shannon like, "Hey, just stand here in case this goes sideways,
Yeah.
so you're not a single parent."
Right.
But yeah, I never understood that. Like being at Globo gym days, as I said before, seeing someone get pinned on the bench and you have to run over and save them when they could have just asked for one of us to spot them. And there's dozens of people in the gym. And this says a dumb one. It sounds dumb, but like picking a spotter who knows what they're doing, like how to spot, that's really important. And I know it sounds silly, but knowing how to spot somebody is important. Otherwise, you can hurt yourself too. You can both be hurt by the lift, and that's not good either.
Yeah, and then like knowing how to set up safety arms, or like if you need like what's the right depth, and kind of like hey, if you're going to be squatting and you're going to that heavy weight, like put something there so you're not just like bailing the weight back, or hurting someone, or communicating with your spotter, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Like I think a lot of times people are like, hey, can you spot me? It's like, well, do you want me to grab the bar? You not want me to touch the bar? Like, and they get mad the way you help them, and it's like, well, you didn't tell me how to help you. So I think communicating with the spotter, having a spotter is great. I don't really do anything right now that is that dangerous. I have kids running around me, so I usually don't do anything too crazy. But yeah, I think don't let your ego get in the way, and like think it's the lift doesn't count if you have someone spotting you. It does.
Yeah. One last thing I'll add is I think practicing how to bail out on lifts or doing things prior to the lift is also important. Like two quick examples: bench press. Never use clips in case you need to dump the weight off. I never use clips when I'm benching, so I can just, if I had to, slide it off each side. And then with the squat, like practicing how you should bail out, because bailing out in certain ways is gonna be really dangerous. You never really want to bail out backwards and let the bar go over your neck, over your head. I always say, dump it back off of you and then get out of the way. But those are things, if you've never done it, you don't know what to do. So honestly, practicing how to bail out, just like practicing how to fall, like good athletes know how to fall without hurting themselves, I think is something important to do as well.
Yeah, lifting is safe if you have right technique and know how to fail. You can max out. It's not a big deal. Next one I have is doing the same workout all year is lazy, not consistent.
What?
I know.
Muscle confusion, muscle confusion.
And I know, not clients, but, older, people I know who just do the same routine over and over and over. And they've been doing it for years. You see it like YMCA is a great example. Like those people are just doing the same workouts
Yeah.
over and over. And, at one point they probably worked for them, but it's, I think it's lazy. Like,
Yeah.
in their mindset, they're like, oh, I'm consistent. I'm coming every day. I'm doing it. It's better than nothing. I agree. Like, I'd rather see someone move the same way every workout than, not. But I think that it is lazy. I think, you should be varying your workouts. And that goes for like, even, obviously we talk about program design. But I think it's just lazy. Like, even if you're like, I'm a runner, all I do is run. And like, you don't try to swim. You don't
I like
try,
that point. I like that point more than I think the lifting thing is true, but I think that point is a more important one for people to understand.
Like I run, and it's like no matter what, I'm going to go for a run. I put on my shoes, I run. Like, and there's no like, hey, I'm not going to swim today, or I'm going to try a bike, or I'm going to do the rower. Like, you're like, I am only a runner. You don't change it up at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like that overuse over years of doing it is very lazy. Hey, you're getting the same stimulus by doing other modalities, but or other machines, but you just, I'm a runner, that's all I do.
Yeah, I think people tend to lean into what they like, which is fine, and also what they're comfortable with. They don't want to try things they're uncomfortable with and try movements that they think might be goofy or weird or like, I'm not good at that. It's like, well, there's no way to get good at it unless you practice it. So you've got to try something new. You can get away with doing something even as an experienced athlete for many, many weeks in a row. But if you want different stimulus that's going to get progress, you're probably going to have to change it up at some point, right? You can front squat forever, but eventually you're going to have to go a little heavier in back squat or do some single leg work, etc. So having favorites is fine, but I think, like you said, you got to change it up eventually and get out of your comfort zone a little bit if you want to see some changes, and hit different things that will stimulate your CNS and body to adapt to what's going on.
I like what you said is the comfort zone, because I think comfort is obviously physical, but I think it's mental too. And I think like an older athlete, I just find this more in like, I think younger athletes know that they need variety or they liked variety, but like older athletes are kind of like, I've been doing this for years. I'm just going to keep doing it. I don't want to learn how to swim. I don't want to learn a new machine. I don't want to learn anything else. I just want to do this. And I think like that's like stubborn and kind of like short-sighted on their part. Where like, I think a mix of a bunch of different things and learning and developing is like a big part of like, mental help. And I think physical, like just that stimulus.
I think this one ties back, interestingly enough, back to the like technique and the form thing, is because I'll see sometimes on my Train Heroic when I read comments by athletes, like older athletes will be like, didn't feel this, so did this exercise instead. And the exercise they did instead is one they always do,
Mm-hmm.
and the one that they always like. But it's like, well, no, I put that one in there because I want you to do something different. So this is a technique thing. Like, you didn't feel it because you're not doing it right, or you just rush through it and you don't understand or know the movement. So we need to, and me as a coach, I need to see that and be like, okay, we got to work on this a little bit because this is good for you. I know it is. And I know it works because I've done them and I've seen them done correctly. So where's the disconnect happening here? Because, I didn't do these, couldn't feel it, so I did this instead. It's like, oh, what a cop out.
Yeah,
like this.
Yeah. That's a great point. But I think I probably fell victim to it where I'm like, oh, okay, we'll do something different, where like maybe didn't identify with that. So yeah, it's important. Last one I have is winging it in the gym isn't freedom.
Nah.
So like just going in and doing whatever you want, like, I just want to do this or that, like that's going to lead to injuries, or I think like maybe not even injuries, but like lack of progress.
Mm-hmm.
Working with someone or following a program is like, and sticking with it. I think like a lot of people program hop. They'll hop from one program to another. And to your point you just made, like maybe it's just something they're not comfortable with. Like, oh, I don't like these movements. This is weird. Or I don't feel like I'm getting much progress. I'm going to switch, and then sticking with it. I've recently worked or I've been following like a golf specific program, and and just to experience different things. I'm like, I told Krista the first week, I'm like, I don't really think it's doing anything. This is kind of like it stinks. And then I followed it for 4 weeks, and I'm like, oh, I actually really like it. Like, there's just like, you kind of like it's those new movements. You're like, I don't know if this is really helping me, and then eventually you're like, wow, I feel much better like mobility wise and strength wise, and some different muscle groups are being worked that I probably wouldn't have picked on my own. So I think it's like, but sticking with it. I think if I just did the first week, I'd be like, oh, I could kind of did those. It's not that great, and then I would have missed out on it. But just sticking with it for 4 weeks, like I'm like, oh wow, I really enjoyed that. It
Yeah,
kind of gave me a different perspective on my training.
exercise ADD. It's like every day is different. Um, people people see shiny things, they want to try them out. I know tons of I don't know if you remember back in the CrossFit days, like people would see a movement, right? Because there's always new skills coming out, and then the next day a gym would have it programmed,
Mm-hmm.
or athletes would be trying it out. It's like you saw this done by some games athlete who's literally a professional CrossFitter, and you're going to just start trying it out in the gym on your own without doing the prerequisite strength work or just staying on your path and working on what you need to work on. You see this shiny thing and you go chase it. And that happens in the Globo gym, right? People hear new trends, see cool things. Knees over toes. All right, I got my slant board. I'm going to do knees over toe stuff. Oh, walking backwards. I'm going to do walking backwards. Like all these different things swirling around on social media, online, etc. So it's really easy to fall in that trap of like every day is a different workout, different exercises. But the best way, the most ideal way to make progress and avoid injury and make those mistakes is to stick with something for an extended period of time and be consistent with it. And then you'll see the progress, like you said, with your golf program. But that can be hard to do in this day and age for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have one for people trying to avoid injury, and I actually posted about this recently. And I think it applies more so to experienced athletes, even older, like especially older ones. Like we're getting older, can't deny it. Father time's coming. Um, Living in the past when you're training
Yeah.
and trying to attain old numbers, or even living in the mindset of the past where the percentages I do, the reps I'm doing, even exercise choices I'm doing now, they're actually stuff I was doing before, and I don't really need to be doing them now. They don't apply to now. And this happened to me this past week. I just started a new squat cycle with a strength program I'm doing for jumping and sprinting, and I front squatted 185 for sets of 5, and I was like ashamed. I'm like
Yeah.
the whole time I'm like, this is like 50% literally of what I used to front squat. Um, but it felt fine. It felt like a good enough stimulus where I'm going to grow from there. But it was really hard for me to bite the bullet and swallow my pride and just do 185. And I think people go into the gym and live 10, 20, however many years in the past, like, oh, my all-time PR is 500 pounds. So 75% of 500 is, they do that math quick and they throw that on the bar when they haven't touched 500 pounds in years.
Yeah.
Their current max is probably 350, 300. So I think living in the past when you go in the gym is a bad approach, because you're going to set yourself up for injuries, almost guaranteed. I mean, every time I've had little tweaks and things like that in the past, post CrossFit career, post college soccer career, it's from that mentality of thinking I need to lift those percentages right now when I'm not there right now.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and I think it hit me really hard when I first initially stopped, and and I was training. I was always comparing myself. I think I relapsed into overtraining like pretty quick a few times just because I was like trying to do my old numbers. Now I feel like I've been so disconnected, and I think like being a dad and having kids, I think kind of gives me a different perspective. So like I think I did like similar to you. I deadlifted like 225 the other day. And I'm like, oh, I used to do this for like 30 reps in a row. I think I did it for like 6 or 8. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. Like, I felt my hamstrings, different focus, like, but yeah, I think it is tough, like going back and trying to like, compare your numbers or, this is what I used to do. And, I almost look at it as like, I'm starting over. I think each age or each kind of like 5 years, like, okay, I'm going to set new PRs and not compare them to I think setting new ones and not comparing them to old ones is important. It's like, okay, in my, 30, 35 to 40 range, like, okay, what am I doing for numbers now? Where am I lifting, And then when I hit 40, you might lower might reset,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can kind of build on that. So like, it'll be interesting to see like what your 185 turns into. It might go up to, it doesn't matter what it turns into, but it'll be cool to be like, okay, cool. I went up to, 185 or, to 205,
Mm-hmm.
in a few weeks.
Yeah, that's kind of the mindset I'm going with, and also the main overarching thing I'm letting dictate everything is, do I feel good? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go into a session just to hit certain numbers and then limp out of the gym because I'm wrecked.
Yeah.
I'd rather I felt great. I did 185 for sets of 5, did my jumping and sprinting, left the session, felt fresh, juiced up, ready to go. I don't want to be gimping out of there because I had to do 250 for 5s or whatever just to make me feel good up here.
Yeah, I think I go a lot on feel. So I'll squat, whatever it is, squat, deadlifts. Like, I usually do those a little bit heavier, and it's just like, okay, I feel my muscles working. Cool, I'll do it next week. Like, I'm not trying to chase the number. It's more like, okay, I felt the stimulus, and then I'm moving on.
You know what the best part was? The next day, my glutes and quads were feeling it. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, should I be embarrassed or happy?
Right. Where like, if you did try to like go up to 225, 235, like you probably would have missed out on, kind of like we talked about in the beginning, your stimulus, you probably would have been using other muscle groups that, you had no business using for that exercise.
Yeah. And like, dude, injuries, it's so I look back now, I'm like, all these groin injuries and things I had in those years after CrossFit there's a lot of factors, but a lot of it was me trying to live in the past, push numbers I was doing in the past, and my body just wasn't ready for it. So it was self-inflicted.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just living that 80%, I think can save you from a lot of injuries.
Oh, for sure.
That and recovering. Like, I think that's a lot of stuff that we talk about, or we talk about off air, or, on the podcast. It's like, hey, just do a little less, rest a little more, you're going to see results. So,
and if you want to see results and have a program set up in a way that's going to help you get there, you could always reach out to me or JP. Where can they find you, JP?
JP Wiz on Instagram.
You find me at the Dabod Chronicles on Instagram as well. That's it for today, folks. We'll see you next time with another new fun topic.